It's about 5:30 in the afternoon. If you've ever done evening fishing, you know that the bite can just be wild. Now, I don't know that that's going to be the case today, but what I do know is that it was extremely hot today, and then just a few minutes ago we had a thunderstorm come through, and that thunderstorm brought lightning and rain, so it cooled it down dramatically this evening. And I think it's combined with the tide, because the tide, it's supposed to be high tide in 3 hours from now, 8:30. Therefore, I think the tide, the temperature, and the water level due to the rain is going to be pretty high, all creating great conditions when you combine it with the lighting of evening for some redfish. So I'm out on the hunt for redfish and sea trout on my way to the marsh. Don't have very long to fish at all. Maximum maybe about 2.5 hours. So let's see what we can catch. We switched up our bait a little bit. You see a lot of bait fish in this area, but it's only about 5 inches deep there. So I don't think that there's going to be any predator fish there. They would be sticking out of the water. Even right where we are, it's less than a foot deep. So yeah, the tide chart was totally wrong, but you know what? That's okay. That just means we change strategies and look for the strategy that will work in this type of water. So, changing up my bait a little bit, just give me a little more confidence. I'm gonna hook up, and we're gonna start moving toward the rapids, that kind of more moving water, which seem to be further in that direction. Now this is going to be really good fishing later on if the tide or current pushes through here and pushes these bait fish off of these islands. The bigger fish are just going to be waiting in a little bit deeper water, and they'll have a free meal. In the interim, since that's not the condition that we saw right there, we're going to move up to where we get in a little bit deeper water and see what we can catch in this direction. All right. Still as beautiful as it can be out here. So now we're in about 2.8 feet of water, but I don't fish the tip here a little bit of this point and then keep moving through. See if we can find some better conditions. Won't spend too long here, but it's worth a few casts. You can kind of see there is some water movement right off in that direction, closer to those two buoys. So the current is flowing a little bit. Scraping the bottom. I saw a little bit of fish activity there too. Got birds. Cooler temperatures coming. And 3.6 feet of water we're in now, so a lot better conditions than over in half a foot of water over there, even though there was bait. We've got moving water here, currents are doing something pretty interesting. It looks like almost going in both directions. So let's just see what we can catch here in this corner in a few casts. Never know. And what I tend to do is I don't stay in one spot too long. I figure if there's fish there, they'll bite, especially if the water's moving. Got one. Got one. All right, tight lines. There you go. It's barely hooked, I can tell, but I don't know what it is either. Oh boy, this is a little baby sea trout, and boy, he gobbled it down. Keep your head down there, buddy. All right, let's see. Get you in my net here. Now that guy's going back. Little baby sea trout. But what it proves is that you look for the right conditions. Even though there was bait over there, doesn't mean, my hand's wet here, show you this little baby sea trout, boy, just a little baby sea trout, and boy, he just gobbled it. I don't know if I'm going to get that out. I hope so, buddy. You're going right back in. If I can get this out of your mouth. Yeah, there you go. Little baby sea trout. See you later. He barely took it, and now I see why. He was so small. So small. Gave us a nice little jump. Again, that just proves if you fish conditions, not locations, conditions. Like we saw water movement, even though we saw bait over there, which is one condition, we see water movement over here and deeper water. And so that's what we want to fish. So, it's a good sign. Got one fish. We're not skunked today. And you can see we're kind of out in the rapids here. And this is just where they happen to be today. Tomorrow the rapids might be in a different place, or the current might be in a different place. Not really rapids. We're not rafting. And that fish had a very light touch, but I paused it and let him gobble it down a little bit before I set the hook and pulled him in. Didn't even measure him. Probably, I don't know, 8-inch baby trout. So, my theory about keeping on moving when you're not catching fish, I don't know, it just worked for me. Works for me a lot. Because I think the #1 reason fishermen don't catch fish is because there's no fish in the area where they're fishing. My rationale is that fish are predators. When they see an easy meal, it's not like they're too full. They go after it. Gorge themselves on bait. And unless you caught them after they just pack to the gills, you should be able to catch fish. So, look for the conditions. Now over here it looks like this water's moving. Off the tip of this point it's barely moving, but it is. And since we're within a cast distance, it's worth a cast. But you can kind of tell the difference. The water's rippling over here and it's really curling over here on the right. So, and it just so happens to be coming through this channel for whatever reason today. It's about to turn us around. Now that isn't to say that there aren't fish over on this side. There very well could be. In fact, many times they don't stay in the main rapids. They're trying to catch the bait fish that have escaped those rapids and are, you know, taking a breather over here in the smaller rapids. But we caught something on the bottom there. There's probably some seaweed, lettuce. Oh, look, a little shell. What do you know? There you go. But, I did that again. All right. All right. Hate it when that happens, but it happens to me like it happens to every other fisherman. Get a thumb that just gets in the way of casting sometimes. Got a tug there. Got one. Got one. He tugged it and then he took it. Oh, this might be a good fish. Pulling some drag. Might be a redfish. Oh yeah. Let's see if we got him here. Oh, that's what it looked like. Is that a sea trout? Couldn't see it. He's pulling me. It's like a red. Might be a redfish. All right, let's see if we can get him in. Oh yeah, redfish. Come on, buddy. Hey, what do you know? Look for the conditions. Look for the conditions. This is pretty good redfish too. Might be right on the edge of a keep, maybe a little bigger. Nice redfish. I'm gonna measure you, buddy. It's one of my favorite fish. Gonna measure you. All right. Let's see here. Still hooked. Get my, yeah, pretty thick too. Don't know if you're big enough to keep. A little one spotter. Nice redfish there. There you go. You gotta be 18 at a minimum. There's your nose. Whoa, look at you. Right on the line. 18 and a half. A nice pinch tail. $18 and a half. Your nose is up there, yeah. You are barely big enough. Now, since it's late, oh yeah, I got you good. Good hook set there. Yeah, croaking guy. There you are. Very good. All right. Put you in the box if you don't flip around too much. Just the conditions. You'll be okay. Well, I really couldn't say it any better than that. Fish the conditions and you will be okay. That's really what my belief is and what I've seen in my fishing. So remember these points. Conditions are really the key. Look for structure, Now, structure is usually linked with location. It's the oyster beds that are under the water, or the islands that you're fishing the tips of. But look also for current. Wherever there's current, there's likely going to be fish. And as always, especially if you're fishing for redfish, look for ambush points. They really like to take advantage of ambush points and come out of hidden areas in order to strike bait fish. If you do those three things, then you will see that your fishing will improve.